Waking up at 4 a.m. is actively sabotaging your cognitive battery and draining your daily productivity. We've been aggressively conditioned to believe that conquering the sunrise is the ultimate badge of discipline, but it is actually a beautifully packaged trap that forces your brain into a state of low-grade, perpetual exhaustion. You aren't unlocking superhuman focus by working in the dark. You are simply shifting your hours, destroying your natural rest cycles, and trading your sharpest afternoon energy for a groggy morning mirage. Here is exactly how to stop fighting your own biology, map your true genetic peak hours, and double your actual creative output without sacrificing your sleep or your lifestyle. If you've spent even 5 minutes in the self-improvement corner of the internet, you know the script by heart. A sleek, minimalist room. The clock glows a neon blue, 4 a.m. The world is dead silent. While the rest of the undisciplined masses are drooling into their pillows, the ultra-successful elite are already crushing their third workout, downing a green smoothie, journaling their vision for the next decade, and out-earning your annual salary before the sun even thinks about rising. We've been told, with absolute, unyielding certainty, that the secret to unlocking superhuman focus and joining the top 1% isn't just hard work. It's waking up at an hour normally reserved for bakers and international flights. It's a beautiful, intoxicating story. But let's be completely honest with each other. It's also a total trap. When you first buy into the 4 a.m. club hype, the enthusiasm acts like a drug. You set that alarm with a sense of righteous purpose. You're going to be a warrior. The first morning, the alarm blares, cutting through the dark like a siren. You drag yourself out of bed, shivering a little, fueled purely by adrenaline and the smug satisfaction that you are winning at life. You brew a massive cup of coffee, sit down at your desk, and look out the window at the pitch-black sky. For about 45 minutes, you feel like an absolute genius. The house is quiet. There are no Slack notifications buzzing, no emails flooding your inbox, no family members asking where their keys are. It feels like you've discovered a hidden cheat code in the matrix of productivity. You think to yourself, this is it. This is the missing piece. Then, around day 4, reality hits you like a brick wall. The initial rush of dopamine wears off, and you're left face to face with the biological tax of your new lifestyle. It's 2 p.m. on a Thursday. You're sitting in an afternoon meeting or trying to write a critical piece of copy, and suddenly, your brain turns into absolute mush. Your eyelids feel like lead weights. That laser-sharp focus you were promised? It's completely gone, replaced by a thick, heavy brain fog that no amount of espresso can cut through. You find yourself staring blankly at your screen, reading the same sentence 5 times without absorbing a single word. You're awake, sure, but you're effectively running on a 2% battery. This is the mirage in action. We've been conditioned to mistake fewer distractions for better focus. Because nobody else is awake to bother you at 4 in the morning, it feels like you're being incredibly productive. In reality, you aren't actually upgrading your brain's capacity to focus. You're just shifting your working hours to a time when society is quiet, while quietly sabotaging the entire rest of your day. We've glorified the act of waking up early as a badge of honor, a test of pure willpower, without ever stopping to ask a fundamental question. What good is an extra 2 hours of quiet time in the morning if it costs you 8 hours of creative clarity and emotional resilience for the rest of the day? You haven't beaten the system? You've just traded your peak afternoon energy for a groggy, dark morning. We live in a culture that is utterly obsessed with metrics. We track our daily steps, our screen time, our caloric intake, and, most aggressively, our hours worked. Because of this, we've fallen into a dangerous psychological trap. We have completely confused activity with productivity. When you drag your exhausted body out of bed at 4 a.m., your brain immediately hands you a massive, unearned trophy just for standing upright. You feel like a hero before you've actually accomplished a single meaningful thing. You look at your watch, see it's only 5:30 a.m., and think, look at how much time I have. Look at how ahead of the game I am. But here's the cold, hard truth. Time is a vanity metric. Energy is the currency that actually matters. What happens when you force yourself into this grueling schedule is a phenomenon known as false productivity. You sit down at your desk in the quiet, dark morning, and because you are running on sheer willpower and a prayer, you don't actually do your deepest, hardest, most creative work. Instead, you do the easy stuff. You clear out your inbox. You organize your digital files. You fiddle with the formatting on a spreadsheet or spend an hour tweaking a graphic that was already perfectly fine. It feels like work. It looks like work. It box checks the "I am working" requirement. But in reality, it's just a high-effort form of procrastination. You are burning through your limited daily supply of willpower on low-leverage tasks, all because your brain is too fatigued to tackle the heavy lifting. This false productivity extracts a massive, hidden tax on your focus. Focus isn't a faucet you can just turn on whenever you please. It is a highly sensitive, finite resource deeply tied to your cognitive energy. When you deprive your brain of its natural rest cycles to chase an arbitrary morning goal, you are essentially borrowing energy from your future self at a terrible interest rate. By the time the actual workday begins, when your clients, your team, or your business actually need you to be sharp, decisive, and creative, you've already spent your best mental capital on trivial tasks. You spend the rest of the day in a state of low-grade irritability, just trying to survive until the next caffeine fix. Your patience wears thin. Your ability to solve complex problems plummets. You become reactive instead of proactive, jumping from one minor emergency to the next because your brain lacks the stamina to maintain a long-term strategic focus. The supreme irony of the 4 a.m. hustle is that in your desperate quest to buy yourself more time to focus, you end up destroying your actual capacity to focus. You've traded your sharpest, most vibrant cognitive hours for a long, drawn-out twilight of exhaustion. You aren't achieving more. You're just stretching your mediocrity over a longer period of time. Instead of forcing your brain to run on empty in the dark, you need a system that works with your life, not against it. If you want the exact strategy to build this kind of sustainable momentum, hit the follow button right now. I break down the science of high performance on this channel every single week. And if you're ready to stop guessing and start executing, I've mapped out everything for you. Tap the first link in the description below to grab your 30-day practical roadmap to master your discipline, reset your mindset, and build habits that actually stick, without the overwhelm. It's time to stop chasing trends and start building real power. Now, speaking of traps, let's look at the midnight math that proves why the 4 a.m. schedule is mathematically broken. Let's play a quick game of logic, the kind we usually ignore when we're hypnotized by motivational videos. If you are going to wake up at 4 a.m. and you want to maintain a baseline of human health, you need to sleep. The human brain, regardless of what internet gurus claim, consistently requires 7 to 8 hours of sleep to properly wash away cellular waste, consolidate memory, and restore your cognitive focus. So, let's do the midnight math. To get a healthy 7 hours of sleep and wake up at 4, you need to be deeply, completely asleep by 9 p.m. That means your phone is off, your lights are out, and your brain is shutting down around 8:30 p.m. On paper, that sounds entirely doable. You tell yourself, sure, I'll just go to bed early. No big deal. But this is exactly where the trap snaps shut, because life does not happen on paper. Think about how a normal evening actually plays out. You finish your work, you cook dinner, you clean up, and suddenly it's already 7:30 p.m. If you have a partner, a family, or friends, this is the only sliver of the day you get to spend with them. If you want to watch a movie, read a book, go to the gym after hours, or just sit on the couch and stare at the wall to decompress from a stressful day, you are looking at a clock that ticks incredibly fast. Before you know it, it's 9:30 p.m. Suddenly, panic sets in. You realize that every single minute you stay awake past your strict deadline is a minute stolen directly from your morning performance. You brush your teeth in a frantic hurry, jump into bed, slam your eyes shut, and try to force yourself to sleep. But your brain doesn't work like a light switch. You can't just command your nervous system to go from 100 miles an hour to 0 because a calendar alert told you to. So you lie there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, feeling your heart race as you calculate the diminishing hours left before the alarm goes off. If I fall asleep right now, I get 6 hours. Okay, if I fall asleep now, I get 5.5. This anxiety creates a vicious cycle of low quality, fragmented sleep. And even if you do manage to iron discipline your way into falling asleep by 9 p.m. every single night, look at what you've sacrificed. You have completely severed yourself from the natural rhythm of the world around you. You can't go out for dinner with friends. You can't enjoy a late-night conversation. You become a ghost to your social circle and a roommate who disappears into the bedroom before the sun is even fully down. You are paying a massive social and psychological tax just to buy yourself 2 cold hours in the dark. You've traded your evening peace, your relationships, and your mental decompression time for a brutal schedule that treats you like a machine rather than a human being. The math simply does not add up. You aren't finding extra time out of thin air. You are just aggressively slicing it away from the things that keep you emotionally stable and happy, all to feed a hyper-rigid routine that is fundamentally unsustainable. The ultimate flaw of the 4 a.m. gospel is its stubborn insistence on a one-size-fits-all reality. It operates on a bizarre assumption that every single human brain is wired identically, and that excellence can only be unlocked at one specific, hyper-early coordinate on the clock. But biology tells a completely different story. Our bodies are governed by internal, genetically predetermined clocks known as chronotypes. Trying to force a night owl or even a standard intermediate sleeper into a strict 4 a.m. routine is like trying to install a Mac operating system on a Windows machine. It's not an upgrade, it's just a recipe for a total system crash. True focus isn't about conforming to a specific hour. It is about alignment. It's about discovering your own unique peak hours. That magical window of time during the day when your brain naturally fires on all cylinders, your creativity flows effortlessly, and complex problems suddenly feel manageable. For some people, that absolute peak genuinely happens at 5 a.m. For others, it hits like a lightning bolt at 10 a.m., right after a slow breakfast and a walk. For a massive chunk of the creative world, the real magic doesn't even begin until 9 p.m., when the rest of the house finally goes quiet and the evening stillness settles in. The goal should never be to mimic someone else's schedule. The goal is to map your own energy. Think of your daily energy like a wave. If you try to force deep, critical work when your energy wave is at its absolute lowest trough, which, for most non-early birds, is exactly what happens at 4:30 a.m., you are swimming directly upstream. You are exerting massive amounts of raw willpower just to do basic cognitive tasks. You get frustrated, you burn out, and you wonder why you feel so profoundly incompetent despite working so hard. But when you catch that natural biological wave during your true peak hours, everything changes. Work that would have taken you 3 agonizing hours of groggy staring in the dark suddenly gets done in 45 minutes of effortless, fluid concentration. You enter a state of flow. Finding this window requires stepping away from the motivational noise and paying close attention to your own data. For the next week, stop looking at what the internet gurus are doing and start tracking yourself. When do you naturally feel the most alert? When does your mind start to wander? When do you hit that inevitable afternoon slump? Once you identify those natural peaks, you can fiercely protect them. It doesn't matter if your peak hour is at 11 a.m. or 4 p.m. If you can dedicate just 2 completely uninterrupted, highly focused hours during your biological peak to your most important project, you will completely outperform someone who spent 4 exhausted, distracted hours at a desk at dawn. Stop fighting your own biology to chase a trend. Work with your rhythm, not against it, and let your focus happen naturally. When you finally step away from the relentless noise of the 4 a.m. hustle, a strange and beautiful thing happens. The guilt completely vanishes. For months, or maybe even years, you've been carrying around this subtle, nagging sense of inadequacy. Every time you rolled over and looked at your phone to see it was 7 a.m., a tiny voice in the back of your mind whispered that you were falling behind, that you lacked discipline, and that your goals were slipping away just because you chose sleep over a dark, cold room. But once you break free from that arbitrary metric, you realize that the ultimate luxury in life isn't waking up before everyone else. It's having the complete freedom of your own clock. True discipline isn't about self-punishment. It's about self-awareness. It's the realization that you don't owe an explanation to an internet algorithm or a billionaire influencer about how you structure your 24 hours. When you reclaim your natural rhythm, you stop treating your life like a performance for an invisible audience and start treating it like an ecosystem that needs to be nurtured. You begin to design a schedule around your actual life, your actual family, and your actual business goals, rather than forcing your life to bend until it breaks around a rigid, unnatural routine. Imagine a reality where you wake up feeling genuinely refreshed, not because an aggressive alarm shocked your heart into racing, but because your body completed its natural sleep cycles. You get out of bed with a calm, steady reserves of energy. You don't need to chug 3 shots of espresso just to feel human. Your focus isn't a fragile, fleeting thing that shatters the moment you hit a mid-afternoon slump. It is a steady, reliable engine that runs smoothly because it has been properly fueled with rest. By designing a life around your own peak hours, you unlock a level of sustainable productivity that the 4 a.m. club can never touch. Hustle culture loves to celebrate the sprint, the dramatic, intense bursts of sleepless energy that look great in a 30-second social media clip. But anyone who has built anything of lasting value knows that success is a marathon. It requires consistency over months, years, and decades. You cannot build a legacy on a foundation of chronic exhaustion and compromised health. So, let go of the trap. Let go of the illusion that your worth as a creator, an entrepreneur, or a professional is tied to a specific number on a digital clock. Close the laptop when your energy naturally dips in the evening. Spend time with the people who matter, sleep deeply without an ounce of shame, and wake up ready to dominate the day on your own terms. Your focus, your creativity, and your peace of mind will thank you for it. True power isn't conquering the sunrise, it's conquering your own focus exactly when your mind is ready to shine.